Ah, yes, another fine day in Idaho with 30-mile-an-hour winds. Why is that great? Because it's also the first day of the year that I actually started water on our little U-pick garden deal, and I'm watching my water blow away, and it's kind of depressing. Why is it depressing? Well, I hate wasting water and I hate wasting power, because every time I run this pump for a 12-hour set, it's about $60, and it sucks. So, long story short, if you don't want to do that, water at night. But again, I had to get water going, so didn't really have a choice. I'll water tonight and hopefully catch up the rest of it. So today's lesson on gardening is soil composition and plant rotation. Now, we at the U-pick farms here at Adamson Farms, we run 56 planter beds. They are 56 inches wide and 100 foot long. We split that in half, so 28 of them we use to plant our crop, whatever vegetables we're growing, and that's about 60 different varieties. And so we'll have 2 rows on each one of these planter beds, and I use my tractor to cultivate it to keep the weeds down. Now, the planter bed right next to it, we'll plant ryegrass. And the reason why we plant ryegrass is 3 things. 1, it looks good. It's nice to walk on. Sorry, that's the same thing. And just cosmetically, it's a lot nicer. 2, sorry, I don't know how many fingers I'm holding up, apparently. The second thing we got is soil composition. So as we are mowing that through the year, it's putting all that biomass back into the soil, and by doing that, it builds your composition. And then the third thing is it keeps down on weeds. Now, the reason why we want to keep down on weeds is the following year I'll rototill all that up, put all that biomass back into the soil, and then that's where we're going to have our planter beds for the next year. So it keeps the weeds down, looks nice, and it builds the soil composition. Works out pretty good. Special note on that though, do not let your ryegrass, if you use it how we're using it, do not let it go to seed, because you will have a very bad day, and every farmer that's up and down the road from around you is going to hate your guts, because ryegrass is probably the worst noxious weed. I mean, there's obviously plant value to it, but I would call it noxious weed because I've had to cut it when it's in wheat and barley, and it just chokes the wheat and barley out, and it's just horrible. So do not let it go to seed. Now, the next thing with soil composition comes into plant rotation, and that's kind of going in part with moving our ryegrass around with the planter beds. Now, there are plants that you can plant that will build nitrogen back into your soil, and I don't really do much here as far as fertilizer and stuff. We try to do everything organically. I mean, I'll put manure down, and urea is organic as well. And most of the time I try to do it through crop rotation. So I've got 3 more years on my hay crop on the other side of my house. After those are done and over with, I'll actually plow that all up and I'll plant hay over where the U-pick garden is now. And that way, because alfalfa is a legume, and legumes build nitrogen back into the soil. And so the other plants that are also legumes are peas and beans, which what we grow. And as you go through the year, and when you come into the fall and you end up tilling all that under, now peas and beans, typically I only get 1 crop of beans a year, but I'll have 3 separate crops of peas, and I'll have those in different planter beds, and we'll use those to build the nitrogen back in the soil. So again, like I was saying, sorry I have ADD, I'm all over the place. I apologize to those I work with. Anyways, you will, when you rototill all those plants back up in the fall, all that biomass goes in. When they decompose, it builds the nitrogen back up. And it's just kind of how the bacteria works with those legume roots and with the plant material and stuff that goes back in the soil. It's just the science of it. Speaking of science, there's 3 things that plants critically need within the biomass. Now that's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those 3 things you really need to do, and kind of monitor throughout your crop rotation. So anyways, that's basically all I got for you. and it's windy here. That's why I'm in my truck, because my phone sucks and it'll pick up every little wind sound out there, and we won't get anything done. So, speaking of not getting anything done, I need to get back to work, so we'll see you later.